Okay. It happened.
We
We did it. So what was your interview?
we had Katie Coleman on. She's a spatial astronaut who was on the International Space Station,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
she and Andrew Maynard just started a new podcast where they're interviewing various experts on all sorts of different space topics.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they had someone on talking about the complexities of like how do you handle if somebody murders somebody in space because you have to ask what nation's module were they in, what
Right.
nation are they from, whose laws apply,
Yeah.
and it like the degrees of furry mess things are.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Fortunately, astronauts aren't prone to murder.
It's true, but I've read Red Mars
Mm-hmm.
and I understand things can go completely sideways.
Space madness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, so yeah. Um, sorry, I'm just still setting things up on my screen and I'm having one of those moments of why does that look like that?
I have no idea what you're talking about. That has never happened to me.
Never,
Never.
never, ever.
Never have a confusing combination of wacky windows and misbehaving technology. Hello. Hey, Richard's here. Okay, I'm going to say hi to people while you sort out the tech. Hello to Beth Johnson, Bork Klankar, Cherry, Corey S, DPI 209, Gordon Dewis, Guido Bieber, Hal McKinney, John Suffield, Johnny Z, Lionel L, Lele McLeod, Mr. X, Mr. Y. That's one person, not two separate people. Paul Disney, Rich Wilson, Richard Drum, the Astronomy Bomb, Ryan Schmitz, Subject Line, and Zap and Zap. And hey, everybody, welcome. So I bought my son his graduation car
Oh, wow.
yesterday. Yeah.
That is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
What grand adventures is he already
Yep.
planning?
Yeah. Well, he is planning on being able to drive to and from whatever job he's about to get, so that he can pay for the gas for his car. Because up to this point he's been using my car, my electric car, which doesn't have to pay for gas. So
Right, right. So now he has a whole new world of hurt.
yeah, totally. So it's like it's a 2000 Toyota Celica. So he went for a pretty cool car for a cheap, crappy old car. Because that's, I'm like, you get to have a Toyota, a Mazda, or a Honda. Those are your choices. And he somehow gamed the system and got a Celica, which is like a sports car. So
And Toyotas will last absolutely forever. So like he's good for a while.
well, that's exactly it. Like if the car goes, then chances are the engine will still be running for another 200,000 kilometers, no problem. But the rear defrost doesn't. Sorry, the rear windshield wiper doesn't work. The fender's a little loose. So yeah, there's all kinds of things wrong with the car. But yeah, it's funny. But it's and it's a standard, which he didn't know how to drive. So I had the entertaining experience of teaching my son how to drive a standard this morning, which was pretty
One
funny.
morning. You taught him in one morning.
Well, I mean, we're not there yet. I mean, I think
Okay.
I mean, we're almost at the point now where he can be like he's not quite at the point now where he could probably like just start to learn the rest of it on his own. He's starting to get there. Right by the end. Yeah, no, I I got Chloe. It's the same thing. I get them a junker, like just an absolute
Yeah, no, that's
junker.
what you do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, stick shift.
So what confused me is like I needed a car way more my last semester of senior year than I needed it after graduation.
Yeah,
So it was just like, okay, that's fascinating timing.
yeah.
Most parents around here where cars are required for everything.
Yeah,
Like
it's I
Go
mean,
ahead.
just between you and me, and anybody who might be listening, the
No one's
goal
out
is
there.
to just increase their autonomy. And I think
Yeah.
a car is a big step in, up until this point, up until they get their driver's license, you as the parent you are the chauffeur. And so, I was spending an enormous amount of time driving him to and from school,
Yeah.
Chloe to and from school. And now suddenly they just drive around and do their own thing, which is great.
Yeah.
And so, but it's up to him. Like I'll I bought him the car. I'll make sure that it's not dangerous to drive. But beyond that, it's up to him to maintain it and keep it repaired and
Right.
pay for the gas. So, yeah. But so that in order for him to pay gas, and like literally, if he's like, Dad, I'm out of gas. Do you have any gas money? I'm like, just like park the car at the side of the road and walk. So. He's got to get the job, and then once he's got the job, then he's trapped in the machine, and he'll become a wage slave like the rest of us. Except for us, actually. Wait a minute, we're the opposite end of it, where our very existence depends on us coming up with creative new ideas and podcasting like every single day. So, yeah. Anyway, what's happening there?
I need to remember not to touch my desk because it makes my camera shake.
Mm-hmm.
Backing away from the desk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that,
You muted. Oh, that was weird. You went mute for a second there.
not on purpose.
Okay. All right.
Not on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just another crazy week of readjusting to being able to like leave my house.
Mm-hmm.
So later today, I'm going to be going to the bike store and picking up my bike, which has been tuned up so it will be a safer bicycle.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to actually like bike riding this weekend.
That's awesome.
And mad conference preparations going on. I'm doing a session with Aviva Yamani on how to podcast and how to build compassionate communities at the end of the month at the Communicating Astronomy to the Public conference, which is completely free and online.
Cool.
If any of you want to attend.
Okay. So I guess we should do our job.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me when you're ready.
I am pressing record. It is recording, and I'm now going to stop touching the desk.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 606, Time Dilation. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. I'm Fraser, Cain, publisher of Universe Today, and with me, as always, is Dr. Pamela Gay, a senior scientist for the Planetary Science Institute and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It is a glorious spring day. And while the stars don't shine as many hours each night, it is great to have Mercury over on the horizon. Have you gotten out to go look at it yet?
I thought we went through this. I can't see Mercury. I have no view to the east and I have no view to the west. Mercury is, I'm just going to have to take it on faith that Mercury even exists.
Okay, I understand. I am going to have to go to a field somewhere because I too have no horizon, but I have access to cornfields that don't yet have much corn in them.
The only time I've ever seen Mercury, I was in Australia. That's it. And you have the benefit that the ecliptic sort of rises straight overhead in Australia, so you know, as opposed to things here being very low down to the horizon.
Right.
But yeah, and so someone was like, "Oh yeah, and there's Mercury," and I was just like, "This is the first time I've ever seen Mercury." It was pretty great.
I think I have seen it from the roof of a building at Harvard. The Science Center in Harvard Yard, or just outside Harvard Yard, has a small telescope on its roof that I used to work with, and light pollution always makes it questionable if you know what you're actually looking at, because there just aren't enough stars.
Yeah.
But I think I've seen it. But now that I live someplace darker, I'm gonna try again.
So if people want to see Mercury and they do have, a horizon, where and when should they look?
So if you go out right now, It is located between the very, very bright Venus and the super thin crescent moon. The moon's getting higher and higher and thicker each day, but it remains above Venus in the west-northwest. So go
Just
out.
after sunset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Venus will pop out brightest and then look up.
Have you ever wanted to be a time traveler? Well, good news. You're time traveling right now into the future at 1 second per second. Taking too long? Don't want to wait? Good news. Einstein's got you covered. Today, let's talk about the weird world of time dilation. And we will do that after our break. And we're back. All right, Pamela. Time dilation, what?
So one of my favorite things that was like this breakthrough understanding for me with relativity was the understanding that no matter who you are and what you're doing, the speed of light will appear exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for that to happen, how you perceive time has to change. So the way to think about this is what we're used to in day-to-day life is if I'm standing on the side of the road in front of my house and a car zips by, it appears to zip by at 30 miles per hour if they're following the law. Now, if I'm going down the road at 30 miles per hour, the car in front of me, in theory, if they're following the law, should appear to be moving 0 miles per hour relative to me.
Right.
And so we're used to seeing everything with relative speeds. The faster I'm going, I'll see people on the side of the road appearing to go in reverse. People around me, I see their motions relative to my own. So it seems like using that human experience that the faster I go, I should eventually be able to catch up to those photons and perceive them as moving side by side with me. But the reality is that while some outside observer might somehow perceive me and those light particles going at almost the same speed, I will never go as fast as the light. Mm-hmm. I will never see that.
Right.
I will always see light at the exact same speed relative to me.
And that is such, I mean, when you think about Einstein's ability to perceive the world in a fascinating way, to have this thought experiment that you're traveling almost at the speed of light, and then you shine a flashlight and you watch the flashlight, and in your mind you'd be like, well, do I see the photons speeding away at just a little faster than me, or do I see the photons speeding away at the speed of light? And the only way, if you see them at the speed of light, is if time itself is changing.
And so this brings up that bizarre reality that Buck Rogers in the 21st century is actually a possible outcome of someone orbiting at a high enough velocity. Now, the fact that orbital mechanics doesn't allow you to zip around the planet that fast, let's say instead they put themselves in this massive orbit at super high speeds.
Yeah.
That's more realistic. Orbit around the sun instead. But, well, good old Buck Rogers' perception of time will slow.
Okay.
So that, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, okay. So then, you talk about this idea of speed. So let's break down time dilation. And I mean, I want to ask, why is time dilation? But I know the answer. The answer is because. Right? Relativity, because that's how the universe works. So let's proceed right past why and go straight to how time dilation. And there's sort of two factors, two ways that you can get time dilation. And the one is the speed. So let's break this down in some examples. And now you're providing this example, the twin paradox is the classic one, right? We've got two people, one here on Earth, one gets in the spacecraft. What happens next?
Well, so we actually got to see this with the Kelly twins. and and the reality is that the astronauts on the International Space Station are experiencing time ever so much slower. And the way you figure out who experiences the change in time is you look to see who experienced the force and who experienced that acceleration that got them to that faster velocity. So in this case, you accelerate yourself up to the International Space Station and to a velocity that keeps you circling the planet instead of falling back, and time slows.
Right. And in that sort of, I mean, very slightly, and it's more complicated because, of course, the International Space Station and the twin who's on the ground are in a gravity well. But let's say you have the one who accelerates up to close to the speed of light, flies for 10 years, and then returns, and then then the twins meet up. So what you're saying is it's not the speed.
Yes.
It's the acceleration that you experience to get yourself up to that speed.
Determines who is the one who's experiencing the time change.
Got it.
It's the velocity that you accelerate to that determines how much time slows down.
Right. And so twin number one is sitting on Earth. Twin number two gets in a spacecraft. They accelerate, and that's the key, to close to the speed of light compared to the twin who's just sitting on the planet.
Yes.
They then return. They take them 10 years. Or I guess the person traveling experiences 10 years and returns home to Earth to see that the twin who is on Earth has experienced vastly more time.
Death.
Right.
Humans only live so long. The human on Earth experience death.
Right. And so the twin, so I just want to be sure I got this clear. So the twin who flies on the spacecraft experiences 10 years. The twin who stayed on Earth experiences hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe millions of years.
Essentially, the closer you get to the speed of light, the closer you get to stopping time for yourself while time passes for those on Earth.
Right. Because you're experiencing the acceleration.
Well, and so this is the key is who is the one whose time stops for.
Right.
We always see things in our own frame of reference. And this is where that car idea is important to think about. So relative to me standing on the sidewalk and the Uber driver zipping down the street, the Uber driver, if they perceive themselves as not moving, will see me moving at 30 miles per hour. So if you have two spaceships in space, it's harder to sort out who's the one moving and not than it is on Earth.
Right.
And clearly, compared to the trees, the ground, and everything else, I'm not moving. But in the vastness of space, you stick two spacecraft down and throw the rockets on one and don't tell the people on board who is having the rockets thrown. You might feel it, but you can also say, hey, we just spun your spacecraft so you felt gravity. So the two could experience the same thing.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the other factor of time dilation in a second, but first it's time for another break. And we're back. All right, so we talked about speed, velocity as one, and I got to be careful, right? Because I'm using like speed, velocity interchangeably, and that is bad physics, Fraser, bad. So velocity, right? Velocity is speed and direction.
So in the equations to figure it out, they use the scalar velocity, which is the speed.
Okay.
And so for figuring out how much time has changed, you can just say speed.
Okay. All right. So we talked about speed. And the other way is to be in the presence of a gravity well.
It's true.
And I think we're all really fortunate because Interstellar came out a couple of years ago and they had this happen. And so we got to see what it did. So what's going on with that?
So the closer you get to a massive object, the way to think about it here is in a normal situation down on the planet Earth, if If I throw a ball slightly, I see it moving at one speed. If I throw it really hard, I see it moving at another speed. And then if I go to Jupiter and I use the exact same amount of force to throw the exact same amount of balls, they're going to move much slower because more gravity. Now, for a poor innocent little light particle trying to escape from a super high mass object, that light particle is experiencing all that gravity. And in order for that light particle to continue always moving at the same speed of light, time is going to have to change as it escapes from different gravity wells.
Right. Okay. And like we saw, like, you know, I was talking about this idea of watching the movie Interstellar, and we saw how in Interstellar, he goes down to the surface of this planet that's orbiting around this supermassive black hole. He's there for a day, comes back out, and the rest of the universe, the rest of his family has experienced 80 years or some ridiculous amount of time. And so it was not because of the speed they were doing to go through the wormhole and blah, blah, blah. It was because they spent this time close to the black hole in the gravity well. And so I think going back to that conversation that we had about the acceleration is the key.
Yeah.
When you're in a gravity well, you're experiencing acceleration.
Yes. It's the what is doing the fundamental altering of your movement through space and time. And that gravity well is doing its darndest to keep you attached to it and to keep that light attached to it.
Yeah.
And the more the gravity pulls on you and light, the more time has to slow down so that light is always perceived as going at the same tick.
Right. Okay. So now let's put this all together. What if you are in a gravity well, say you're orbiting a black hole, and you're also going very quickly compared to somebody who is going, I guess a black hole is a bad idea because you'd be standing, but let's say you're on the Earth, right? I mean, this is a practical example that we can actually do, where you're on the surface of the Earth, and so you're in the presence of a gravity well, or you've got your twin who's flying in space on the International Space Station. They are in less of a gravity well because they're at a higher orbit, but they're moving faster.
Yes. And to be fair, I haven't redone these calculations in ages.
I haven't either, and I apologize because it's not in my head.
So last time I did these calculations, assuming I did them correctly, and I really hope I did, what I figured out was time goes more slowly for the astronaut because the time dilation effect compared to being on the ground is greater for them because of the amount of acceleration that went into getting them where they are. Whereas if you stopped them in space, this would cause them to fall to the Earth, so don't do this. And compared the time dilation due to their lesser pull from the center of the Earth, they're still being pulled on, just less.
Yeah.
But the dilation caused by the lesser pull at altitude compared to the surface of the planet, that time dilation due to gravity is a smaller effect than the time dilation due to accelerating so they don't fall.
And like there's got to be like a perfect balance where you essentially experience no difference in time compared to the person who's on the surface of the planet because your speed of movement balances perfectly out the fact that they're in a greater gravity well. And so you
and this would be a great homework problem. And right now, everyone is very glad I am not still teaching physics for engineers who get calculus.
You would assign it.
Yeah. You should be able to totally calculate out what density planet do you need so that someone on the surface and someone safely in orbit have the exact same ticking of the clock, although they may not. You can never sync those clocks because it takes time for light to get between the 2 points, but the ticks are the same duration tick.
All right. Well, I want to push time dilation to the extreme in a second, but we should have another break. And we're back. All right. So now I want to blow people's minds. And
I love time dilation. I just want to say that I absolutely love this concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, one very popular science fiction show that's come out in the last little while is The Expanse, and they have these really powerful fusion Epstein rockets that are able to take your spacecraft really, really fast. And so if you could just jam on the engine and you had an unlimited fuel supply somehow, and you just kept accelerating, what would happen to time for you and the rest of the universe?
Your time, by your perception, your heart would continue to beat the exact same way, but
you continue to be pressed into the seat at 1G, right?
Yeah, but the more your velocity increases, and here it's the absolute value of it, that speed, the non-vector scalar portion that matters. With each moment of acceleration, the moments that an outside observer sees you experience become fewer and fewer.
Right.
You will stop aging over time. You will stop breathing to the person watching because everything is slowed down so absolutely much. And in other science fiction series, I'm thinking of Hyperion here, there's this wonderful example of in the future when high-speed travel between solar systems becomes practical, people of means can deposit their money and invest it in good things and then skip through time, becoming wealthier and wealthier and experiencing less and less. And I mean, imagine just how hard it would be on one hand to pop out of space travel and see all the amazing technological changes that have occurred, but at the same time be like, and I'm rich now.
But the part that's kind of crazy is that you could keep on accelerating, and from your perspective, you would never reach the speed of light because it's impossible. But you would still be experiencing 1G of acceleration for days, months, years, decades. Yeah. And even though if you did the math, you're like, I should have gotten faster than the speed of light, you won't. And yet the distances that you'll be traveling and the time that the rest of the universe will be experiencing just continue to grow.
Yeah.
For as long as you can keep this going.
And crazy things start to happen that we've discussed in other episodes many years ago. So go digging through the archives. The way the equations for relativity work out is your momentum increases in ways that aren't entirely linearly related to your mass. And the impact of this increased momentum, the faster and faster you go, is that it's like you were gaining more and more mass. Now, the reality is the number of atoms in your body will not change unless biological things occur. But your ability to destroy things if you hit them increases because of this apparent change in mass that is due to the relativistic effects on your momentum. And this led to a question with which I broke a physicist and never really got a good answer. They sort of ended up walking away mumbling. Mm-hmm. And the question was, if a body of mass goes fast enough so that its equivalent mass via momentum is such that it would be a black hole, is it actually a black hole? And the answer I've gotten from other theorists was no, that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
But I did break one physicist this way. I was proud of myself.
So the part that's crazy is that if you could keep this acceleration up, you could be going to the point that in like a decade, you would cross the Milky Way. In 2 decades, you would go to Andromeda. In 3 decades, you would be billions of light years away. And in about less than a human lifetime, you would travel more than the distance to the edge of the observable universe.
But the problem is the amount of energy that it
Of
takes
course.
to keep accelerating your
Yeah.
increasing effective mass, not your actual mass
Yes.
increasing, your effective mass increasing.
Yeah.
You would exceed the mass energy of the universe before you exceeded the speed of light, which is part of how we never actually go faster than the speed of light.
Yeah. And so for someone watching you, you would just be very close to the speed of light, and you'd be doing that for billions of years.
Yeah.
From your experience, because you're continuing to accelerate, you would be like 0.999999% the speed of light. And so it would take you 2.5 million years to get to Andromeda. It would take you 46 billion years to get to the edge of the observer, but you wouldn't experience it. And yet the rest of the universe would. And so you would have to wait, we'd have to wait 50 billion years for you to reach what was the edge of the observable universe. It's absolutely mind-bending and awesome. And it's like this one hope that we can travel vast distances in a single human lifetime. Although you have to say goodbye to everyone and everything you know.
Well, just travel with your friends. Travel with your friends.
That's a good way to do it. All right, thanks, Pamela.
Thank you.
Do you have some names for us this week?
I do. I need to find the right window. I am sorry that I always force people to edit at this point. I am not to be trusted to open windows ahead of time. And it's making me log in.
No.
I don't know why. Like, I was logged in. I was doing things logged in. And then it was like, and now I have to verify the device. Pardon me while I make faces. I don't even know where that email is going to go.
Do you want to record it separately for Richard?
Let me do a real fast, see if it went where I think it went. We will know in a moment. I have so many monitors. I love my monitor fort.
Monitor fort.
I have a monitor fort.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is what one should build.
Yeah,
monitor forts.
Yeah, I love it. I've never heard it said that way, and I think it's great.
Okay, so I got the confirmation link. I just need to copy it. Wait. Okay. All right. So as always, we are here thanks to you out there. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us and making everything we do possible, for allowing us to pay Rich, Allie, Beth, Nancy, all the people that keep Fraser and I on the straight and narrow, because Lord knows we need herded. So thank you for making this possible. Thank you for paying our server bills, our everything else. Thank you. And this week in particular, I would like to thank Kevin Parker, David Truog, Bill Nash, Helga Bjorkborg, Richard, and Janelle Duncan. And it turns out that because it's the end of the month, those are the only names I've got.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thanks to everybody. And thank you, Pamela, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone.
And then they saved.
And then they saved. And then they lost their windows is the actual thing that happened.
As long as they don't lose their audio.
No, I just lost where I buried that window. And I'm going to remember to put it in the correct folder this time. All right, Rich gets it. There we go. I love relativity. I really, really love relativity. It's like awesome.
There was we didn't really have time, but maybe we can talk about it a little bit more now, which is in the Bobiverse books. They deal with this idea of relativistic travel, time dilation. Even though the different Bobs are able to communicate at faster than the speed of light, they are still taking into account relativistic factors for the accelerations. And so they're having these conversations where they're they're experiencing time at different rates, and so they're having to change their clock rates for each other to be able to talk. Yeah.
It's what I particularly loved about, and I know the author is controversial, but he wasn't when I read and fell in love with the book in high school. What I love is in the book Ender's Game, where the ability to contact and communicate with the general that they accelerated to keep him alive until they found the soldier they needed.
Mm-hmm.
He has to wait for the recordings, and then once they're finally captured, he can play them at speed. And the interval between when he can communicate gets smaller and smaller as they bring him back to normal time. And that's exactly how it will work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So Mr. X, Mr. Y is wondering about advertisements. How, when we break for the ads, those ads are only for the television, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
like, does Richard cut them out of the...
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, they're not in the audio at all.
Right. Okay.
So were someone to offer us money to be an advertiser, we would happily take their money. And if we believed in them, insert ads, we would say, yes, we believe in you. We'll take your ads before we took the money. We're honest like that.
Right.
But no, it's because we periodically air on Now Media Channel 21 in Houston and on television.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have sponsors, they at least have promos for other shows to run.
Right. And so they want us to so when we do this show, it's both a live show that goes live on YouTube. It's also a podcast that Richard edits and we put it on the podcast feed, and it's also being prepped for going on television.
Yeah. So
that's why there's all these weird little pieces that are all being done simultaneously.
Yes.
How do you, of all the methods of monetization, because again, Mr. X, Mr. Y is saying that they are allergic to ads. Which forms, how do you feel about monetizing stuff?
So I hate begging the audience for money. And if a company that produces something I already love, like we've had BarkBox as a sponsor, we've had Audible.com as a sponsor. And these are companies that I throw money at because I love their products. If they say, tell everyone how you love our products and we'll throw money at you, I would rather say yes to their money and do a personal, hey, I love Audible, you will too, advertisement. I wish they were paying us for this. They're not. I do actually just love them.
Yeah. No, Audible's great, and they're not giving us any money.
Yeah. And so I would rather take Audible's money to share with you something I would share with you anyways than beg all of you for money every week, because I love all of you and I want you to have good lives. And I can only have a good life if you donate. And it's an existential crisis.
It is and it isn't, right? Which is just
I hate money. I'm going to let you talk because you're more capitalist than I am.
Or less. I'm not sure. I think you shill better than I do. But I think that we as content creators, we're always walking this balance between creating the content and going hungry and not being able to pay the rent and not being able to do anything else. And the skill that we gain in being able to focus and do this job is the benefits the quality of what it is that we produce. Like I would be a much worse science educator, space educator, if I wasn't able to just do this as my job. If I had to go and work in some computer company day in and day out, and then in the evenings, which was what we used to do back in the beginning, right? Was true. We had our regular jobs, and then we had to sneak in recording episodes of the podcast, and then back to our regular jobs. And so at a certain point, we have to just make that decision. And you see lots of podcasts that just flame out because they're not able to pay the rent. They can't do it anymore. They're just, there's only so long you can just do it out of the goodness of your heart.
Well, and because of folks' donations, Fraser and I would hang out and talk astronomy while apparently eating bagels. just because we can and we like each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate editing audio.
So we would not make the podcast if we had to do all the other stuff, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And so we just throw money at other humans
mm-hmm.
who we pay living wages. We're able to offer benefits to Allie. Beth also has benefits. Rich doesn't quite hit enough hours for benefits. Sorry, Rich. But we're able to offer people a living wage and mm-hmm. Benefits to do things that we don't want to do because you donate. And so we just hang mm-hmm. out and do things we love.
Yeah.
And I will admit the 1 hour a month that goes into finance, I bill. I do not do budgets for free.
Right.
But everything we do on this show.
Yeah, I don't take a salary. Astronomy Cast has never sent me a check. So, we'll pay for travel. And at one point, we bought you a computer back before you owned the coolest computer on the planet. Yeah. I think that it is a funny thing. And so it's like if I sort of face this with the content that I like. We all have a budget that we're willing to spend for content. And the fact that podcasts or even YouTube videos and things like that, with YouTube, YouTube monetizes it pretty hard and try to gets the ad balance perfectly. I pay $15 a month and then I don't see any ads on YouTube. I'll never not pay the $15 to because not seeing ads are worth it to me for that. And you get access to just watching stuff offline and you can listen to music and all that kind of stuff. But I think that, back in the olden days, if we had cable or whatever, you spent $100, $150 a month to get the garbage that was coming on television.
Right.
And now I just I roughly balance the amount that I spend on creating, on supporting creators to the tune of what I used to spend on my cable bill.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a great guideline. And so I pay for Disney and I pay for Netflix, and then I pay for probably 10 different creators via Patreon.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
And this is what I love is we can decide this person's creating stuff that I want to see what they're capable of if they're just given the support.
Yeah.
And so instead of waiting for some studio or somebody to pick up an artist, we can say, hey, I got you. Mm-hmm. And Amanda Palmer's book, The Art of Asking, for any of you who are creators out there, it is a must read. She's just an amazing human who realized it's okay to ask for help as long as you're also giving, and we recognize that this is a two-way communications.
Mm-hmm. And I think that for us, we've always been in a special world, me with Universe Today, which is really paying the bills, that I don't have to really think about monetizing the other projects that I do, right? Yeah. I don't have to have Curiosity Stream ads or Audible ads on my YouTube videos because we're monetized on the website itself.
Right.
And for you, for the longest time, you were a professor and you were getting funded via that way. And you still have CosmoQuest and you have that whole enterprise. And so we don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about how to monetize this. But if this was all that we had, then it would be either monetize it or don't do it. Go get a real job. And I think that for people who, if there's content that you like and you would feel sad if that content didn't exist, then I think the onus is on you to join their Patreon, figure out a way to be able to contribute to what it is that they're doing, because every day that goes by, that creator is having to once again step up and go, here's this world that they are giving this gift to you.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's not the traditional sort of commercial experience, right? Like you can't go and watch a movie in the cinema without paying for the ticket.
Right. And so for me, it was like I love listening to Escape Pod. And it's a lot of the podcasting voices you and I know from cons. It's a lot of the authors we know. And I realized I look forward to this so much that I have to give them my money. It's a moral obligation. So that's been going on for a while. And then I just realized that Babe, who I've been at conferences with and stuff, and am friends with her and her brother on Facebook, who I also know him from cons, she creates a truly delightful moment of science each day. It's a short essay. And I realized this about a week ago. And now I have to read this every night before I go to bed. And when I pay my bills tonight, because it's that Friday, I'm going to add her Patreon to my list of Patreons. And it's just a matter of that moment you realize, I need this in my life to be happy. I look forward to this. Give money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're looking forward to this thing, then you are the customer. Yeah. And the fact that the creator is not forcing you to access it behind a paywall is them I don't know.
It's a gift.
It means right, but it's almost
not
beyond
all
a gift.
Of us have the means to give. If you don't have the means to give, they're still letting you enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not what you see in literally any other field. It's they're saying, if you can, that's great. If you can't, we understand. And it's sort of like a lot of the other news websites are putting their content behind paywalls, so you literally can't access them. Yeah, a lot of even in my field, and I've sort of made this calculation that from what I can tell, I will never need to do that with Universe Today. Right. Because I do feel like educational content should be freely available, especially, you imagine a person who's in a developing nation, they don't have enough money to be able to access this content, and yet they want every piece of leverage they can get to raise their knowledge and skills. And it would suck to put all this knowledge behind a paywall, educational content.
And I think the phrase that we hear a lot is pay what you want. And sometimes you need to realize that that's a double statement, really. Pay what you want and what you are able. Because we have one delightful member of our community who at least once a month is like, when I win the lottery, I'm giving you and Rocket Sage the money so that I can make sure you're taken care of to keep producing this content. And it's the recognition that he wants to do more, but can't. And I don't know how many times over the years I've had someone come up and say, I wish I could give to your show. I can't. And it's like, look, there have been so many times in my life where I wished that I could buy a bag of corn chips and donate money, and I couldn't even buy the bag of corn chips.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. We're creating this because we want you to learn.
Yeah. And again, we would do it if there was no money in it, we would still do it. We would just do it poorly.
Yes.
Right. That's all worse. Vastly worse. And so Hal McKinney is asking, do you consider listeners asking meaningful questions a form of support? And the answer is absolutely. Like if there is a thing that you do want to support, it is meaningful to you, and money is not the thing that you can send, then there are all kinds of other things that you can do for the things that you love to help give them a leg up in this world.
Inflicting them on your friends is the most important thing you can do, honestly. Yeah. And next to that, writing reviews.
Yeah, yeah.
It's inflict us and review us.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I think Hal McKinney is exactly right, which is asking meaningful questions, helping to increase the quality of the show itself, of participating in a positive and supportive community in making the meta experience better is vastly important to what we do. With the Weekly Space Hangout, how the fans are also the people who are choosing and bringing on guests. People have no idea how much that means to me. that I don't have to organize the guests, right?
And with CosmoQuest, folks help out with literally every stage of what we do. And with CosmoQuesticon coming up, I know I'm going to get the help finding guests. I still owe you an email. I suck.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. And we have the best community out there as far as I'm concerned.
And when you think about, like, for every podcaster, for every YouTube creator, for every Twitch streamer, they are all running themselves ragged. They're all just a one-person show that is trying to be on camera for large amounts of time or be behind the microphone creating content, and then at the same time have to do all that other administrative stuff.
Right.
And the greatest blossoming that you see for any creator is when a well-meaning organizer slash editor slash assistant, like, if I didn't have Chad working with me over on my channel, I don't know if I'd do it.
Well, and this is like Richard Drum miraculously arose out of going to science fiction conventions and via his friendship with Nicole.
Yeah.
And Noisy Astronomer. And like, he's there as the rock who has the generational experience of like, with CosmoQuesticon, it's our theme this year is 80s Space Party. And I apparently was not on flick in the 80s at all. Like, my every attempt to make something 80s stylized has failed in every possible way.
Right.
And he's there like, here are the fonts, here are the things that, and having these experts, and Nancy Graziano is another one that just like one day appeared in our inbox saying, hi, I noticed you need help with Facebook. And
yes.
Like, well, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Hi, be a mod.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that if there is a creator and you are an organizationally minded person, and there are creators that you're a big fan of, that you are, a couple of months away from probably a paid position with that creator, if you can bring them value. Because, and that's, if you look at all of the creators that you really like, in many cases, that's how the people who joined who became their employees, who became part of their team, made their way through that process, because they just, like, they pitched in on the, show up time and time again on the channel, showed that they had the right kind of behavior. They were offered mod status, and then they started to take on additional tasks, and then they were offered a job.
Yeah, we have both done this many times, and we'll probably do it many more.
In fact, pretty much every single person who works on either of our teams made their way to us through the community.
Or by being a student. So Annie Wilson is an exception. She was a student that we worked on a planetarium show together, and she wasn't allowed to escape.
Yeah, and so if you're, if you are looking for work and you do have that right kind of mindset, by all means, demonstrate it to the creators that you love, and you don't be surprised if they just keep throwing more and more responsibility your way, because they are all totally overwhelmed all the time.
And we all have things that we want to do and we dream of doing, and we just need hands. Yeah.
Like, people always ask me, like, oh, could you just get so-and-so as a guest on your show?
Can you reach out to them, please?
Yeah. Exactly. Could you reach out to them, please? And just, that's exactly it. And so many of the people who are the fans for my show, they can't believe it, that they went and they they sent out an email and they asked this person who they thought was a superstar, they thought was someone that was unreachable. And the person's like, yeah, no problem. Sounds good. And then they show up on the show and they put it all together, and it's incredible. Yeah. And then you've made such benefit to us as the creators. I mean, I think it's not, because we only do this show, say, for like an hour a week. But when you think about, like, the poor Twitch streamers who are trapped on camera.
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. They're trapped on camera for 5, 6, 7 hours. And so they have no time, no bandwidth to do any kind of production, post-production, pre-production for what they do. And so there could be all kinds of incredible quality that's going on the stream. And but they can't do anything else.
Yeah, it's teams like Das Valdez with the NASA space flight. That's an entire team that I think Chris is leading. And they put out daily summaries on YouTube. They do all the live streaming, the tank watchers. I have periodically been a tank watcher. I don't own the shirt. And that's another way you can help us actually is we do have a Redbubble store.
Getting swag.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like if you need a hoodie, random stupid ways you can help the show.
Yeah, I'm a little I find that just in general it's probably not that great. Like selling merch. I know a lot of people do sell merch, but I find like I'm amazed anybody does a merch shop.
You don't make money off of it. You allow people to share their joy more effectively.
Yeah.
So what's that shirt? Oh, this is from X.
Yeah.
So like I want a Tank Watcher shirt so someone can ask me what the heck that means and I can talk about all the starships that went boom.
Right. Okay.
They're conversation starters. Merch is conversation starters.
All but one. Well, so there you go. So there's your answer, Mr. X, Mr. Y, to the question that you didn't ask, but I saw you commenting in the chat, and so I thought it was a very important conversation to have. Did you hear that it looks like James Webb might be delayed?
Oh. I just bit back all the swear words.
Did you hear?
No.
Do you want to know why?
Panama Canal pirates?
No, but
okay.
But there's nothing. It has nothing to do.
7 months. Sorry, I just hit the headline. Go ahead.
Did you? Okay, all right.
Wait, no. This is from last year. This is from last year.
So they don't know. So the concern is with the rocket. So the concern is with the launcher, with the Ariane 5 launcher, because it's pretty much the last Ariane 5. They've Ariane has already moved on, and this one's just sitting there, waiting for its job, and now NASA's GAO has some concerns about the safety of the launcher, and so we might have to see a more thorough.
Jeff Faust has a good article, and he writes, ongoing work to address a problem seen on 2 previous Ariane 5 launches has kept that launch vehicle grounded for months and could delay the high-profile launch of NASA's JWST later this year. The Ariane 5, one of the world's most reliable launch vehicles, last launched in August 2020. Then he goes on to talk about the long hiatus in launches that has occurred. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the thing that John Grunsfeld has said so many times, that the least safe place for a spacecraft is on the ground.
Right. Yeah.
They're not meant to exist in an atmosphere with gravity. Get
that thing to space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this is a nightmare. All right. Well, we've reached the end of our It'll fly. We've reached the end of our hour. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thanks for putting up with a little bit of a diatribe into how to help podcasters, how to help content creators that you like. What is the next super interesting thing that people should check out that you're up to?
So later this evening, we are going to be doing our community cocktails. It has, I think, a different official name, but that's really what it is. We get together and we drink on Twitch while talking about everything that's going on. So that will be taking place at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, twitch.tv/CosmoQuestX. And we are just super excited that we just recorded an episode of Daily Space with astronaut Katie Coleman, and that will be going up on YouTube on Monday.
I had 2 absolutely fascinating interviews this week, which I think people are going to want to listen to. One is all about Boltzmann brains and cosmic strings, and are we Boltzmann brains? It's a very fascinating, kind of mind-bending conversation. And the other one was with the principal investigator for the MOXIE experiment, on
Awesome.
Perseverance. We talk about making oxygen on Mars and how much would it take to keep an astronaut alive, and what comes next for in situ resource utilization on Mars. And
Awesome.
so such great interviews, and I got lots more good interviews coming. So I know I've vastly increased the number of interviews, and so I hope people are enjoying this. All right, we've reached the end of our hour. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all of the moderators in the channel. Thanks to everyone who supports what we do in whatever way works for you. Thanks, Richard Drum. So great to see you and joining us in the chat, Richard. You are missed when you're not here.
Yeah.
Although we sense the invisible hand of Richard managing the audio edit on everything that we do. And thanks to Beth for keeping me organized and on time. That's awesome. Pamela, we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks, everyone.